Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. We are going to talk watches. We're going to talk about some new releases tonight, the new Omega releases, new releases by Oris, Timex, Tissot. What else is there? Errant. There's a lot. There's a bunch of new releases. There's a new Messina Lab monopusher chronograph, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of different watches at various price points. So let's get to it. Now, I don't even know what to start with because there's so much. Let's start with something light. This is the collaboration that Hodinkee alumna Cara Barrett did with Timex edition V1. I think it's actually a beautiful piece. Mechanical movement, 36 millimeter stainless steel case, three-hander with sweep center second and applied Breguet numerals, and an interesting vintage style stretchy bracelet, a soft blue dial color, which is quite endearing without without being that particular shade of hype. It still rides on the same wave, I would have to say. And obviously, this piece is mostly interesting for its price point. I have to say, it's an interesting, very appealing aesthetic with a profile that is quite unisex, very evocative of a vintage piece with a hand-wound mechanical movement, decent water resistance at 50 meters, 5 atmos of a depth rating. So a very elegant piece. I believe it may have already sold out on Hodinkee, but may also be still available at Timex. Slim profile, 36 millimeter diameter, and classic design makes this an interesting proposition. I appreciate that the model has borrowed my denim shirt. And I like the spinel detail that tops off the crown as well, a little touch of aesthetic flair there. And it's really like a classic baby blue color. Reminds me of what Archiwatch did recently in terms of his personal brand of watches that were released with sterile dials, so to speak, without branding or with minimal branding. I think it was wearing one of them in his stories, so I want to bring that up so you can get an idea of what I mean. Archiwatch is, of course, this vintage watch dealer from Paris who collaborated previously with Merci Instruments, Merci Watches. I have that LMM01 that he helped design. This is the watch that I meant, and it looks quite killer actually on that straight end link 7-row or 7-link beads of rice bracelet. I should put mine on the Forstner that I have, and yeah, this is the watch that I mean. He had a softer blue color as well, but you get the aesthetic. And the reason I'm showing this is not to imply any sort of transaction, just to emphasize that these kinds of everyday, smaller sized, dressy designs seem to be catching on, seem to be becoming popular. Not sure if they will ever reach the level of a mainstream fad that we had around the SKX 007 or 009, right at the very beginning of the internet communities, of the YouTube channels. People seem to be going crazy about it, and that was, of course, just one brand and a particular line of watches, whereas here, of course, you have a very different landscape in terms of the horological industry. You have any number of micro brands, as they're called, any number of independents and individuals who collaborate or who start their own brands, who launch their own watches. But there seems to be a discernible trend of a dressier aesthetic, of more compact case sizes. And again, I don't think that is necessarily the overarching hype, because I believe the trend still seems to be towards watches 40 plus even, right? In an era where Patek is increasingly making watches 40 millimeters, 41 millimeters, even 42 millimeters, it seems a little absurd to say that smaller dress watches are becoming a fad. They are becoming a niche interest, and now that we have a mature watch collecting community and we have more of a mainstream awareness in terms of wearing wristwatches again as something cool, increasingly there are people who are gravitating towards these kinds of pieces, whether they come from micro brands, from new independents, or in terms of vintage pieces, right? There's a reason why a lot of the, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin integrated bracelet dress watches in tiny sizes have become popular and have become kind of a unisex piece of jewelry or accessory in the recent years. And it will be interesting to see how major brands in their contemporary collections will catch up with this trend, will speak to this trend. And I think possibly Audemars Piguet AP seems to be perfectly placed for it. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they have a lot of women in leadership now, including the head of Complications, who is, of course, a very well-trained, important watchmaker, and Gaëlle Quinet is her name, yes, who spent a lot of time with Breguet and Patek before coming to AP. And that's an interesting position to occupy, because not only does it speak to AP's legacy of making complicated watches, but it's also a public-facing position for them to not only put at the level of the new CEO who is coming, who is, I think, already with AP, but taking over the position at the end of the year Ilaria Resta. They have also installed Kine as the head of complications, which really is a public-facing, customer-facing position and a marketing position as much as a horological position. So it's going to be interesting to see how AP would capitalize on something like this beyond this code 1159 drivel. It would be interesting to see how other big brands speak to this upsurge, this resurgence of niche interest in more compact, classically designed watches. For now, it seems that it is the smaller brands, it is the micro brands that are eating parts of this pie, that are slicing up this pie. Hey, Corrado, nice to see you, man. And GD, respetos. So next, I want to talk about a very interesting chronograph from Habring2, which is what they call Chronofelix Top Second. I absolutely adore this styling. Not a huge fan of cathedral hands in watches, especially in contemporary watches, in new watches, in watches that we are still making in the 21st century. I understand that it speaks to a certain style, and it's not out of place here at all. But as a measure of my personal taste, I don't really appreciate it. I feel it looks extremely dated, but in this sort of military styled field/pilot's watch aesthetic that this particular piece evokes, I think it is actually quite at home. As you can see, this is a chronograph that is operated by a single button, which is placed right there at 2 o'clock. All start, stop, and reset is activated through this single pusher. The single register at 3 o'clock, which is a 30-minute totalizer. Beautifully sized Arabic numerals, except for number 3, of course, and 2 and 4 are slightly cut off, which is actually an aesthetic that I adore in a tool watch, because it kind of inspires in me sort of casual, relaxed vibe that focuses on the utility rather than following purely aesthetic concerns. Cathedral hands are, of course, beautifully and generously loomed. That spear-shaped center sweep seconds, which, I mean, obviously is actually a centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. And then you also have this little register here in orange, as you can see, that peeks through the hole in number 9. That is actually for flashing seconds. So this watch is foudroyant, as they call it. And you will see the mechanism in one of the pictures below. Oh, thank you. Look at this. Maldives. I love Maldives. Thank you so much. Keep it up. Keep it up. So, Corrado, we are I'm just getting to that. So we are looking at the Chronofelix top second by Habring2, which is a single button chronograph with a flashing second complication. There is under that 9, at 9 o'clock, there's a propeller shaped disc that makes one revolution every 5 seconds. And because it has that 2 arms, that particular disc has 2 arms, as it makes a revolution every 5 seconds, every 2.5 seconds, it will basically blink with that orange, because one arm will pass right under this hole. Right, so right here is a propeller-shaped disc with 2 arms that makes a complete revolution every 5 seconds. So this will keep blinking, basically. Every 2.5 seconds, blink, 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 blink. So even when the chronograph itself is not operating, you will see that beating heart of the watch, basically. So ultimately, in fact, this watch ends up having a very pure, undisturbed aesthetic when the chronograph is not engaged. Even as you have a way of making sure and setting yourself at ease by looking at number 9, looking at 9 o'clock, and noticing those flashing seconds that give you a beat every 2.5 seconds. The piece has the A11FC movement. A11 is the base that they build after the architecture of Valjoux 7750, even though at this point, Habring does everything in-house with, of course, components that they source from other partners as well, but not ETA. FC stands for, I'm assuming, foudroyant chronograph, flashing seconds chronograph. The model, once again, is called Chronofelix top second. And it has this sapphire case back, which gives you a glimpse onto the movement. Very pleasing, certainly a capable finish, but much more austere than high horological. But that's, of course, reflected in the price, because what you have here is a piece that costs about 9,000 US dollars, including the 20% Austrian tax. So in fact, more or less, you are getting this beautifully styled, old school, military vibe single button chronograph for less than $9,000. heat blued screws, as well as the cam of the chronograph, also heat blued. The case diameter is also quite restrained, quite conservative at 38.5. And the thickness of the watch is 11 millimeters. At 30 meters of water resistance, this is not exactly a sports watch, but it should get you through the day very easily. You can buy it directly through Habring2 or through its retailers, and the price, once again, is about $9,000, including the 20% VAT, which is in euro 8,050. And since I personally complained about the hands, I'm sure if and when you order it directly from Habring2, they can probably fulfill your request for a different set of hands as well, and probably at no charge either. They are extremely, extremely helpful, caring, and kind when it comes to these kinds of interactions. I think this is a beautifully designed watch with an intriguing complication that you don't really see every day. Stunning matte and grained Grenet black dial with nicely sized Arabic numerals that give you that old school military field or pilot watch vibe, and a kind of chronograph complication feature that you don't see every day, that you don't see in many watches, which is that blinking eye at 9 o'clock, foudroyant, which gives you a beat every 2.5 seconds, since there is a kind of propeller that is completing a revolution right under here at 9 o'clock every 5 seconds, with each arm passing through there every 2.5 seconds. Yeah, I love it too, Thomas. I really do love it. A lot of interesting watches coming out of Germany and Austria these days. It's really, really fascinating. Next up, I do want to go to the Nivada-Grenchen analog shifts collaboration. This is the Nivada-Grenchen Chronomaster Big Eye Yachting Limited Edition. We were just talking about Nivada-Grenchen earlier, a couple of days ago, about their Antarctique, about their field watches, but also about their chronographs. But most specifically about that salmon-dialed spider design, the unique dial that has that sort of crosshair that divides the dial to about 12 different pieces. But a lot of Nivada-Grenchen's bread and butter, both now and also in their classic period, in their vintage era, was of course in chronographs. So it feels right that one of their collaborations would come in this genre as well. This is a hand-wound chronograph, so it has, I believe, the SW510 Celita manual chronograph movements. It is their classic Chronomaster, so 38 millimeters in diameter, all in stainless steel with that beads of rice style matching bracelet that sits flush with the case and at the lugs. And the dial is given a unique combination of colors and gradations that make it closer to a yachting style. The first 5 minutes are marked in blue in the 30-minute totalizer at 3. And the last 5 minutes of those first 10 minutes is marked in orange and in the form of a countdown that goes from 5 to 0, kind of a 10-minute countdown basically when you first engage the chronograph. And the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand has that lollipop styling with a nice dab of loom, pencil hands, a white dial with the continuous running seconds in a black subsidiary dial at 9. And Analog Shift, as you guys know, has actually a very nice and minimalist logo, which looks like it absolutely belongs on this dial as well, counterposed to, of course, Nivada-Grenchen's own branding, their own signature at 12 o'clock. The watch also has a rotational bezel, fully graduated for 60 minutes, but also indicating in a concentric circle 12 hours as well. And it's kind of a ghost bezel in this shade of gunmetal gray. At 20 millimeters, it should be a breeze to change the strap if you needed to. The thickness is not necessarily the most accommodating at 14.8, but if you are used to the size, the proportions, and the heft of a vintage chronograph or vintage inspired chronograph, like say the Breguet Type 20, you should be fine. I mean, my Breguet Type 20 is, of course, it's the revival version from around 2001. So it has the automatic movement, the Lemania 1830, which makes it a little thick. It is 39 millimeters in diameter and about 15 millimeters in thickness. So that kind of size actually feels really good on the wrist for a sporty watch. But if it's a concern for you, if you like finer things, there's a chance that this watch might not be for you, especially because the case diameter itself is small. So a lot of people might complain about the proportions, which I think are just fine, but it is something that needs to be underlined. Solid case back with the branding in relief. signed crown, pump pushers, lovely lugs with that chamfer. And a very interesting watch that is rather different from whatever else is out there, at least in terms of its styling. I think it's a very handsome looking watch. The only objection I can take to this is the naming. When I think of big eye chronographs, there is usually a very noticeable size difference between the two registers. This looks only marginally bigger at 9 o'clock than 3 o'clock. It might be because it is largely white and kind of blends into the background, which is a white dial, but I would have much preferred to see something that is genuinely a big eye, that is significantly larger at 9 o'clock. But that's just a minor issue, certainly nothing that takes away from the design of this watch. Again, beautiful domed crystal that gives you a little bit of a distortion, re-emphasizing that vibe of a vintage chronograph. And the particular markings at the 30-minute totalizer, which have two distinct colors for each 5 minutes of the first 10, a darker shade of blue for the first 5, and an orange for the last 5 of that 10, which is graduated also as a kind of countdown from 5 minutes to 0. Hey, Mitch, how are you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, Lord?
You're there?
Yeah, man, yeah.
How you been? I think you saw Omega on the title and you came. Is that right?
Yeah.
Let me just say the price of this piece before we maybe switch to Omega. So this is the Nivada-Grenchen Analog Shift Chronomaster Big Eye Yachting Limited Edition. I don't know how many pieces there are. Let me check that very quickly. 1 of 100. Surprisingly, still not sold out. And right around 2K, so 1,995 for this chronograph. The SW510 is actually a rather decent movement. It could have allowed them to make a thinner watch, but the vintage aesthetics has not necessarily allowed them that kind of slim down effect. But in either case, with 63 hours of power reserve, this is a respectable piece. And it is up to 200 meters water resistant, so that rotational bezel and the yachting theme isn't just a gimmick. So what do we do? What do we do, Mitch? What do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, what do we do? What do we do?
Well, what do you think? Let's start there. It's the Seamaster's 75th anniversary, and Omega released 11 different watches to commemorate this event, and they kind of, this is something that I just realized. Basically, there are like 11 gradations, right? They're all summer blue, as they call it, but they go from lighter for the least water resistance, for the lowest depth rating, to a much darker shade by the time they get to the ultra deep, which I think is a nice gimmick. It's an interesting little detail, and there are these kinds of Easter eggs in the watches. Do you like the color? Do you like any of the watches? What do you think about the whole enterprise?
What do I think? What do I think? I'll tell you what I think. I think
Okay.
it's shit. No, uh, I think a lot of people are very disappointed in the Seamaster. Because the general rumor was like, oh, it's going to come out in 41 mil. It's the 75th anniversary. It kind of make a little sense. And they just really, I mean, look, I think the dial's fantastic. I really do. I really like the dial. It's just, and they kept the price within reasonable range. Usually, when they do something like this, like if you look at the last two Bond watches for Omega Seamasters, they've just really spiked up the price on them. And I know that was kind of a concern here. We're like, oh, are they going to do the same thing where this would have been 10 grand? Memory serves right. This is like $6,300 if I recall correctly, which isn't bad. Um, especially if you have an Omega dealer who's going to discount, because then you're looking at 57, 5,500 somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it's on rubber it's 5,900, and on the bracelet it's exactly 63, like you said.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's really not bad. Yeah, it's a bummer that they kept it in 42, but then again, is anybody really surprised at this point? It just seems like Omega really doesn't. They're not going to go back to 41. Yeah, they got to keep the Americans happy. They got to keep the Americans happy. So I wish they kind of would have done something with the bracelet. It really was. I mean, it really is, and it's kind of lazy just a dial swap and a case back swap. As far as I know, the movement's the same. The case thickness is the same. But generally speaking, here, I think the Seamaster is a great. This edition here is a great watch. It's something different. And yeah, it really is an ideal summer watch. You throw this on a white rubber strap, or possibly a bright orange from Rubber Bee. I think it's going to look fantastic.
Yeah, look, I like the aesthetic. I think it's a very original shade. It's yes, it's cheesy. We complain about it all the time. Every season, every year, they come with a different color of the dial. Especially Rolex used to be the masters of this. With the Rolexification of Patek and other brands, this has become an annual shtick now. But in this case, at least, they worked on a different expression of a gradient blue. They have this whole shtick, as I was just talking about, where the gradation is actually across the model lines as well, with the Aquaterra being the most bright and light, and the Ultra Deep being the most profound and darkest shade of the dial color. And it looks stunning, honestly, in the wrist shots that people were posting from Mykonos, where Omega was apparently holding the event. And even here, it just looks like a very stunning dial. There's like a sunburst effect that emanates from the center. It kind of looks like a smoked, in stills at least, it kind of looks like a smoked dial, which is a nice aesthetic, and it's quite captivating in its natural habitat. Um, the price points, we were kind of throwing jokes back and forth on Oz's Discord, as you remember. Um, I said it would be around this price point rather than something extremely outrageous, but it is a concern that Omega keeps raising their prices, keeps upmarketing their product without necessarily adding something new, adding something substantive. And sure enough, that's a criticism that we can direct to many other brands as well. So I don't want to single them out, but they seem to have been the brand with most price increases over the last, 8 to 12 months. So that's a point of concern.
Of course. And I did see, technically you have to talk about the 300, just not the 300M, because they're both in the same bracket there. I did hear, or rather read, somebody mention in the Omega Facebook group that the Seamaster 300 looks better than the 300M with this blue, and I tend to agree. It just seems to fit it a little bit better. I don't know what it is, but it just looks a little bit better. I mean, yeah, like you said, the noticeable color change of shade of blue. I think what they did with that one looks great. And again, nothing's really changed with it dimension-wise, hardware-wise, or mechanically speaking, as far as I know. I haven't looked at the spec sheet, and I would assume Omega really didn't change anything. But I think that one does look slightly better. I like it. Yeah, I think these will be ideal hits. Are these limited? Do you know? Are they limited numbers? Are they around just for a limited time, like the McRib, or are they just so many units?
Like what?
Like the McRib, of course, the McRib really isn't. I mean, can you call the McRib a limited edition at this point? I mean, they bring it back every 3 to 4 years.
I love that analogy, man. It's a true connoisseur's analogy for sure. No, I haven't read anything about these watches being limited in any way. Although, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to, I don't know, maybe discontinue it, after a year or something. But I somehow doubt it. I somehow doubt it. I think these will be really popular, and maybe because of that popularity, they might end up um, being quite hard to get in the first year, and maybe a little easier as time goes on. But I like the Seamaster 300. Ever since they introduced it, I guess the kind of vintage inspiration behind it speaks to me. I like the Arabic numerals at quarters. That's a nice detail. I like the sandwich dial. So a lot of which allows the watch to both have this sort of throwback charm, but also copious amounts of lume. And maybe it's the sandwich dial that that person was talking about. Maybe it's that aesthetic that fits the gradient blue, the summer blue dial a little better. Of course, this is, I don't want to say significantly, but this is the watch that gets the most of an overhaul in a way, because now it has a ceramic bezel rather than aluminum, with the numbers filled in blue enamel that speaks to the shade of the blue on the dial as well, which is the detail that has been used in other bezels as well, like the Seamaster Diver 300 M2. But of course, this is I'm not mis you know I'm not misconstruing it. This is a smaller watch than the Diver, right? It's 41, I believe.
Uh, yes and no, if I remember right. So it's smaller in regards to. It's actually, in my opinion, really, it's actually bigger.
Okay.
I
It's,
think
I mean,
it's
on paper, it's 41, but
right, but the lugs really jet out. I mean, those are giant slabs, and if I remember right, this 41 kind of dwarfs the 42 mil.
okay.
Especially if you get that sapphire sandwich version. That crystal really adds height.
Wow. Okay. Um, that's a nice compliment. I'm all, flattery will get you really far on this channel, Hazy Eagle. Um, cheers from Finland. Oh my God. Finland is one of my favorite countries, actually. I went to a music festival in Finland when I was 18 and made some great friends who needed a lot of social lubrication to get in the right mood. But once they get drunk, the Finns are practically the best people in the world, the most fun, the great friends, great company. SUF Helsinki, I think, makes a decent watch for the price point. Sarpaneva, I really like in terms of the special work that goes into the watches. I would love to go more deeply into them at some point. I was supposed to go to this jewelry house called Passion Fine Jewelry. That's like halfway between between here and San Diego. But I kept postponing the trip, and I think now how they deal with watches has changed a little bit. I think the person who was doing watches for them has moved on and is opening his own joint in a way. So I need to get in contact with him. And if I have the opportunity to see those watches in person, I would rather wait for that moment to pass any sort of judgment on them. But I have to say, I was extremely struck by the case designs, by the work on the dials, just by the overall aesthetic. Very limited number of watches, of course, and you really have to sort of buy into that aesthetic just to get a quick glimpse there. Very unique and interesting designs that you don't necessarily find anywhere. A signature case shape. Sign me up. I'm always interested in these kinds of brands. But I need to take a closer look beyond the specs and photographs. That's what I mean to say. Yeah, that's what I meant by flattery will get you far. Say something nice, and I will oblige immediately. All right, going back to Omega. Yeah, so are you implying that your favorite is the Seamaster 300 or
The
by and large?
300M's my favorite. Just in speaking in general terms here, given that I've owned it, it's a solid watch. It really is. I've always said the Omega is like the G-Shock of the sports watch world when it comes to that middle class luxury tier, because they're just built, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, they're just overly built. They're way bigger than what they should be or need to be. Anyways, but speaking directly onto this topic here, I think the 300 is just it looks a little bit better. Um, if I had to choose between the two.
Hmm.
I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think of the case back? I mean, do you think it's Do you think it's how do you say adds value to the watch, or is it just like you could take it or leave it?
No, look, I'll put it this way: it's not foreign to Omega, right? Omega is a letter from the Greek alphabet. Omega had before the Speedmaster became the Moon Watch. It had a hippocampus on the case back. So all the imagery you see here, combined with the Poseidon, who is of course the god of the seas, is very fitting. And it's to me, I don't mind things like that. To me, I'm not looking for an exhibition case back unless there's a movement there, either in terms of its complication or with regard to its finish, is captivating to look at. A time only or time and date piece doesn't offer me much. And Omega doesn't necessarily, decorate their movements at that level, which is okay, which is not a shortcoming. So a solid case back that has some sort of imagery, it doesn't bother me. It's like the waves on the back of a Seiko diver. It's like reassuring, right? It conveys a certain sense of identity, even emotion. I don't think anyone would turn this watch down because it has Poseidon on the back. That's all I'm saying. But some people will start bonding with that imagery already by next year. I can assure you of that. And at the end of the day, it will stand or fall on its own accord. No one will judge the watch, I think, ultimately by this. Except, of course, they might already hate the watch for one reason or another. So it's easy to take a shot on something like this.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that Omega is the official sponsor of Rolex Rejects across the world here, so it's only fitting that it has a slight
I
giving
will
to it to make
say
those feel better.
one thing. Well, two things actually, but the second one I won't be able to go into too much. But they introduced these on the Greek island of Mykonos, right? So they put together this whole event with George Clooney and with a lot of pomp and circumstance in Greece. And funny enough, Rolex had just thrown a big party in Greece. The Rolex Arts Initiative did a whole festival in Greece. So once again, it seems that they just can't help themselves. They are just following everything that Rolex does. Second, and this is mostly an ironic point, but with all the scandals that have gone on around the sale of that patchwork of a Speedmaster that broke the world record for an Omega watch, and how Omega as a brand responded to it, not only by firing the heritage and museum director Petros Protopapas, but also throwing him under the bus and threatening him with legal action. They end up in Greece somehow, not long after they fired and threw under the bus their Greek museum and heritage director, which I find very ironic. I don't have anything more profound to say about that, but it was funny when I saw that, right after Rolex did a whole event in Greece, Omega had to do their own. They just couldn't help it. And I like how they made the display as well. This organization. You are as you scroll down, you go deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute if you have got like a tab or not a tablet, a computer, but it's a bitch if you have a phone because it makes the whole website kind of a pain in the ass to navigate.
Of course. What do you think about the Ploprof as an idea?
I
As an idea, I'm afflicted by the same issues, so I'm not asking you to say whether you would purchase it or not. As an aesthetic, do you
no.
like it?
Look, everyone knows it's Paul Thorpe special, the Thorpe special. Uh, look, I thought in speaking just again in general terms here, I think the Pro Plof, I think it's a cool watch. It's funky as hell. It's something very unusual. You're not gonna see it every day. It's cool. It's very cool. Um, how they executed the dial, how they executed the loom on this, it's very cool. I think it's great overall. Yeah, I think they did a great job on it. It's what you see is what you get with this watch.
Thank you. So, two baby girl, $10. Thank you so much. Good evening to you as well. Um, MC had two Sarpaneva watches, very cool pieces and aesthetic. Hazy, it reminds me honestly, there's something going on with my internet again. It reminds me honestly to get back in touch with my friends in Finland. I should really reach out to them and call them. It's been a while. John D says, have to disagree. The coaxial movements have been very nicely decorated for machine finishing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, machine finishing is fine. It's just not what I'm looking for if I see an exhibition case back.
It's just not Patek Philippe quality.
Jesus, don't get me started on Patek, please. It's a sore spot. At this point I have. It's very funny because I feel so much more strongly about AP in general, and I've been treated like absolute shit by AP as well, and normal by Patek Philippe, although quite cold. But for whatever reason, I get disappointed with Patek so much more often. Perhaps it's because I have given up on AP in so many ways as a contemporary brand. That might be the reason, but it angers me for whatever reason. MCM is joking around saying they're coming out with a non-gender Poseidon next year. Hey, they're gods. So even though they are in human form, you don't really know. No, joking aside, I mean, it is what it is, man. I don't get too bent out of shape about those things. Captain, my top three for the 75th anniversary are the 300M, Ploprof, Ultra Deep, in no particular order. I prefer the closed case back on these. I agree. And Rolex over all of these, of course. Well, was that ever in doubt? Was that ever in doubt? I have to say, yeah, if we are doing top three, I have to say my favorite is actually the Ploprof, which is a throwback in terms of the dimensions. And I really think it looks damn sexy in this particular color scheme. It's, again, as an aesthetic, it's a watch that I really like, but it's just like Panerai to me. I love it. I can never wear it without looking like a clown, and I already look like a clown in so many different ways. So why exacerbate? Why exaggerate? I love, by the way, that meme you posted with Family Guy in front of a library saying, like, every single Hodinki podcast or something. What was
Oh,
that?
at first I thought you were going to say, speaking of clowns, how about Joe Biden?
Do you want me to leave the show to you again for a few minutes so you can get it off your chest?
Yeah, we need to have our Tucker Carlson moment. We need to address the State of the Union again, the presidential 2024 elections.
What is Cucker doing these days?
You know what? I think he actually has his own. Speaking of podcasts, I think he really does have his own podcast or something along the lines of that, like his own like YouTube stream or something like that.
Wasn't
He's
he
basically talking about the same shit that he always talks about, like how the government's corrupt and stuff like that. Stuff that we already know, essentially.
wasn't he gonna do a live show on Twitter at some point? Am I mistaken?
I think he's done a few of. That would make sense, anyways.
That was an intriguing concept for me, but I believe the infrastructure perhaps for live streams on Twitter might not be entirely there.
No, I've look, I'm not to get into detail here, but I've seen a few Twitter live streams and it's atrocious. It's awful. It's not it's not even like Discord. It's
Mm.
like you said, it wouldn't be my number one choice as a platform. Like I would probably choose TikTok over Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, I love this watch. I love this design. I don't particularly love the price point, but it is a very sexy watch. I think the whole color scheme is very becoming of this particular piece. Of course, they're all, nautically themed watches. Of course, they all fit in that spectrum in one way or another. But I think Ploprof is probably my favorite of it all. Um, you know, I think the classic Diver 300M is great too. And again, ultimately, it's just a different treatment. It's just a slightly different color. So nothing to write home about there necessarily. The Aquaterra, this actually on rubber could be an interesting piece. This one.
I'm a little pissed off at the Aquaterra actually. So
Why? Tell me.
so the Aquaterra 41, I've got nothing against actually. I actually like it. But the 38 mil, they immediately threw into a woman's watch, and they've done this now twice now with this edition. So they took their latest green. Not I'm not talking about the green that just came out with the white state wheel. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about this. So they had a green one before this one, and they made it into a ladies' watch. And it actually was a pretty nice green dial. I actually did get to see it up close and personal. It's a very nice green, but it's the fact that they made both that unique green color and this color in the 38 mil into a woman's watch. It kind of pisses me off. Because that 41 is fairly large. Those lugs are pretty damn long.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of guys like us get fucked over and are basically either A, forced to either buy the ladies' watch or B, just, not buy it at all, definitely irritates me because I feel like they should have just made this one a standard 38 mil as well.
I think the dial that JB is talking about, Jake Brooks is talking about, is the one that is in the 41, right? The kind of ribbed design. Could you show the teak pattern on the Aquaterra? The dial has a cool boat deck effect that changes at different angles. So the 38, I think, has the sunburst and then 41 has the texture, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think this is a nice one. Look, I mean, on the, do you see it on the rubber? It's very cool.
Yeah, I might try and screw around and if I'm like Ozzy here. I can't get Rolex. I can't get Rolex. I might have to go into the losers club temporarily and buy an meager
I
Aquaterra.
look, I I came around the Aquaterra. To me, most recently, with the release, they flopped actually, trying to crash Watches and Wonders in 2022 with those colorful dials. I was really alienated from it because, again, they were getting too close to what Rolex does. And for me, Omega is worthy in terms of its distinction from Rolex. The closer they get to Rolex, the less interesting they get to me, because Rolex does what it does better than everyone else. There's a reason why they're leading the pack by that much. So Omega for me brings something different to the table. And, you know, this is actually nice that they went through a whole 75th anniversary kind of revival or renewal across the line and chose one consistent pattern that they varied here and there. And I like the way that these came out. And I think after the Ploprof, this 41 is my favorite. Um, Apparently it's PVD treated, gradients, and has that sunburst effect as well. A kind of ribbed dial, which, I'm sure people who really want to come down hard on Omega pause might criticize it for looking like some other nautically themed watch. But, Patek doesn't have a license to make the only horizontally ribbed dials in the entire world. And um, as JB was saying, the general texture of this dial, I think, is more reminiscent of like a boat deck than anything else, which certainly fits with both the larger Seamaster theme and the Aquaterra name as well. Yeah, for me, these watches don't look so great. Like the Aquaterras don't look so great to me on the bracelets, but on the rubber, I kind of like it. And the price point is not unreasonable either, within Omega's own standards, of course.
Right. And I've owned the Aquaterra for less than a week. And let me tell you, those bracelets, they're kind of shit. It's a butterfly clasp. So as anything, on most butterfly clasps, doesn't matter what size your wrist is, it either fits you or it doesn't. And that's kind of like half the problem with them. I wish they would do what JLC does with their butterfly clasps and include an adjustment in there, but that's neither here nor there. But for the short time I did have it, it was a great watch. In my opinion, it was a great watch. A bit big. It kind of dwarfed my Seamaster a little bit with those lugs, but I threw it. I pulled the T and Tickers. I pulled the T and Tickers and threw it on a NATO strap, and it fit pretty damn good. It fit pretty damn good, and I might, yeah, like I said, I might try and I might inquire within and see if I can't get my hands on one of these.
Yeah, they are tempting. And by the way, I love Maldives. Eid Mubarak to you. And if we have any other Muslim viewers as well. Eid Mubarak. Have a good feast, good festival, good time with family. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like this watch. Um, Honestly, I would have preferred a darker kind of strap with it. And I'm not a huge fan of the texture on that strap. But the overall aesthetic of this watch, I like it, which here it comes a little, it comes out a little lighter than how it was looking in those action shots and videos that they had earlier.
Yes, it's very ladylike. What I'm wondering is what the lug width is between this. If it's 21 or 20. Because that could make a difference right there alone.
For how it wears, you mean?
Yeah, and for a strap. So I initially was a few weeks back. Initially, I was gonna buy my green Aquateer again, but I was gonna throw it on a strap. So I was gonna buy a strap for it. And I was gonna buy the Aquateer strap for it. And those motherfuckers, that's the only watch, if I remember correctly, it's a 20 millimeter lug width, and that's the only watch that is 20 mil lug width. The rest of the Aquaterras are 21. So they did not have a rubber strap for that green Aquaterra.
Okay. Well, the thing is, let me see. I think they have the thing is the one that has rubber, is that handling removable?
I no clue. No clue. Lord, as you know, I'm not very familiar with the rubbers. So I all this is foreign to me.
Thank you for that information. Yeah, I was thinking this particular end link. I've never owned an Aquaterra myself. Maybe JB can speak to this and whether that takes away from the modularity, whether you can actually put it on different kinds of straps from other makers to begin with. The lug width here is specified as 20, but if that particular end link, like the male end link structure that connects the case to the rubber bands, is there to stay, that already makes things more difficult to change around.
And I know someone will probably jump on in the comments saying, "Well, just buy an aftermarket strap." Yeah, good point and all that, but I'd rather buy an official Omega strap.
Okay.
Just based off of principle.
It's part of the rubber strap. Okay, so it does remove with the rubber strap. All right, makes sense. That's true, John D. And the of course, the Seamaster Diver came later. And therefore, also throughout its existence for Omega, Seamaster was a very all-encompassing line that didn't only have diver-styled sports watches. By the way, guys, as you know, I'm not gonna talk too much about this and get into a different kind of mode, but there are now channel memberships available. And Alireza, when they were introduced for the first time 2 days ago on the last live stream, he gifted 15, and I think there's still about 4 or 5 of them to go around. So if you have not turned on allow gifts on this channel, do that, and you might still qualify for some of these free memberships, and you'll be able to sample for the first month what that is about. There is some extra content. There is some exclusive content in the form of daily digests from the watch market, about 3 deals per day within a particular category of watches: brand, model, complication, historical era, and other types of interest in terms of styling. So even when you might not want to pull the trigger on a particular watch that is talked about in that recording, you might still learn something from it. But check it out. Nothing wrong with trying it for free. Yes, my friend, I got it. Yeah. So the end link part in the middle is part of the strap. So it comes off with the strap, and it's not connected to the watch head. So 20 millimeters, and it can be actually used with other straps as well. Yeah, I think for me, the top 3 of these are the Ploprof, the Seamaster Diver 300M, and the Aquaterra 150M. Especially on the rubber. And I do like that dial, the ribbed decoration of it. It kind of reminds me of a strange detail that I noticed much later when I was looking at the movement of the current Breguet Marine watch, which has this overbearing focus on evoking nautical references, with the propeller-shaped crown guards, ship wheel buckle, this ship wheel oscillating weight for the self-winding movement. And if you look at the movements, the bridge plates are actually not decorated with the usual Geneva stripes, but with rather straight and alternating stripes that actually make it look like a boat deck as well, which is a nice little detail, I suppose. The presentation case too, by the way, looks like the inside of a luxury yacht more than anything else. So it can be overdone, certainly, that sort of reference point, but that is a cool little detail. And thank you, JB, for picking up on how there is something similar going on here. What would be your 3 favorites out of these 11?
I think the Seamaster 300M, the Aquaterra 41, and then I'd say the World Timer. The World Timer is definitely
you like that?
Well done. Yeah, I do.
Let's see. I don't know. I find it large.
Oh, it's very large and in charge. It's like 44 millimeters?
43. I find it large, but I think the dial actually is a handsome dial. Both from a design perspective, I mean, even without necessarily being part of this series, I appreciated it. I liked it. But in this particular edition, too, it looks even better. Yeah, look at that. And that is 9,900 on the rubber strap and 10,100 on the matching stainless steel bracelet. All right. Let me put a poll in there and see what the audience seems to like and enjoy. Let's have a little poll. What's your favorite release from the Seamaster 75th anniversary line? Is it the Seamaster Diver 300 meters, the Aquaterra, the Plo Prof, or one of the other? So feel free to hit one of those options. Choose other. Please feel free to say it in the chat. And while you're doing that, don't forget to hit the like button as well.
So now here's my question, Lord.
What's the mechanism? No, go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me.
Well, no, I mean, because technically it's going to pander off an entirely different section here. You were saying?
What's the mechanism on this particular world timer that rotates the cities ring? Or is there one?
Good question. I don't know enough about this world timer to know the ins and outs of it, but I don't know. It doesn't specify.
Let me see.
Come on, Lord. You know more. You know I'm more of a design guy than I'm a mechanical guy.
Let me see. There's, of course, a Tim Mosso video of this. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know. I've never actually played around with their world timer, so I don't really know how you operate the cities ring. There must be a mechanism. I mean, is it just decorative?
I don't know. Knowing Omega, giving us price point, it's like 10 grand. They probably cut a few corners. or it might be as you turn out the crown, like a GMT, you have to pull it out at
Ah,
uh,
okay.
certain.
So the 24-hour ring turns, but not the okay, the 24-hour ring turns, but not the actual city's ring. You can't manipulate the city's ring. All right. Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. So it's more of a GMT watch than a proper world timer, to be honest, in that case, which is okay. Like you said, the price point perhaps is specifically for that. Sorry, what were you asking? I did cut you off there, Mitch.
Well, no,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you here. Yeah, Tudor's gonna release a watch here, but we know they're gonna shit the bed with another Black Bay. Tudor's become a very uninspiring brand. I think they're born to be boring. So that really only leaves one other competitor in the realm of the middle class. And do you think Omega's new releases are enough to compete against Cartier?
I'll say this very quickly, and not necessarily as a blanket statement, but I don't know if you were listening when I opened the show, but I was saying that there has been a trend, even though it's a niche trend and not necessarily something that applies to everyone in the mainstream, every single watch collector, but there has been a trend towards unisex watches. Or put another way, there has been a trend towards watches that can appeal more to women. There has been a trend towards watches that can appeal to even my feminine side and yours, Mitch.
No such thing.
Saying all that, I mean to really point out that Cartier has a secret weapon, basically. I mean, they have a catalog of all kinds of watches, some of which have been originally designed for women, perhaps, but equally adopted and loved by men. Others that have a very genuine and long-lasting unisex appeal. You can think of the Tank, of course, most obviously. You can think of all its odd variations, from the Crash to to the Centré Américain, whatever else, the Baignoire, which was initially a feminine shape, but has been adopted throughout, especially in larger sizes by men as well, so on and so forth. So for Omega to take over Cartier again, they have to do something that appeals to the part of the market that had been largely ignored for quite some time, and that is women. That's where you can make a marginal difference, rather than just sell a few more watches. So Omega has to have a better end game to reclaim that runners up spot, if that is in fact a goal for them.
Yeah. And in a nutshell here, I was discussing this with another group of guys, but we were basically saying that, yeah, Rolex is going to maintain its number one position just due to the fact that their reps are throwing all the watches in the safe. And that's basically the last bridge that Rolex has here, because a lot of other companies are starting to pass Rolex here, mechanically speaking, which is another conversation in itself. But I think I think Cartier here is probably one of the hottest brands that's going to pick up steam progressively here, because they've done a very good job. They've done the polar opposite of what Tudor does, where Tudor just threw everything on the black bay and said, "Screw it, this is what we're banking our future on." Cartier did a very good job of making sure the line was spread out, that all their, from the Santos to the Posh to the Crash, all
I
of it got spotlight.
I agree with you, Meech, and I think the future is very bright for Cartier, especially from the fact that honestly, at the moment, I think Cartier is not really a collector's brand at the moment, as in they don't actually offer enough variety for a collector to say, I want to go low and buy this and then go high and buy that. You get what I mean? Like you get one Cartier, not like a collection of Cartier. But they could move into that. They could produce more families. They've got an iconic back catalog, and it's something they could move into. I don't think there's people out there who are like they literally have collections of Cartiers. Am I wrong?
It depends. I
you
mean, if
you
you
are a little bit. I mean, in
Mhm.
the sense that in terms of the vintage collector, which has really exorbitantly expanded in the last few years,
For
but
sure.
there are a lot of people who collect all kinds of Cartier watches, men's and women's. But I know exactly what you mean. I think in terms a kind of younger collector, uh, that sort of one brand obsession for Cartier and for their contemporary catalog has only really taken off in the last few years. Otherwise,
Mm.
I agree with you. Mostly Cartier was really, in many ways, a one watch brand, not only for people who want to add one Cartier to their collection, but especially for people who want a recognizable, luxurious, safe, and respectable choice for the one watch they want to wear all
Hmm.
the time. That has been Cartier's calling card for the mainstream customer
Yeah.
for the one watch. So you do have a strong point there, but I think in terms of the vintage collector, it's always been the case that people obsess about Cartier, maybe even more than any other brands, setting Rolex aside.
Yeah.
But in the
It's
recent years, it's a new trend now that people want both the platinum tank normal that just came out and the solar beat. Like
yeah.
people do pick and choose like that.
They're starting to do that. I mean, you look at how many colorways and variants of the Santos that have come out, but I don't know. I look at it in the way that we used to look at Rolex, where that you wouldn't really think of different dials and say, oh, I got to have this dial, and that dial, and that colorway in the same collection. You would just pick your favorite and be done with it. But we see lots of people who are just like, oh, I want all the different colorways, or maybe 3 out of the 5 colorways of the GMT. But in Cartier, even though they've got a lot of variants, I'm not at all enticed at the moment with that variation to say, oh, I want the white medium and the white large Santos and the blue PVD Santos. Do you get what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if they're enticing people yet in that space, but they're clearly trying. They're clearly trying to get people to buy their second Santos. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
again, I think it's more in that case. With Rolex Aussie, there are of course price differences between different kinds of professional lines, but that kind of spread of interest is rather horizontal. In Cartier, it moves in ladders and
Yes.
it's very vertical. So you can get your tank. It can be a tank solo. It can be solar beads. It can even be, a mechanical stainless steel. And then you have to jump up. You have to make a vertical leap to get your next one if you want to still stay within the line of tanks.
Right.
So it is a different kind of mentality when it comes to collecting. They basically offer very affordable entry-level watches in their iconic designs, and then there's kind of significant jump when it comes to precious metal versions,
Yeah.
and then an even more significant jump in a certain sense when it comes to limited editions, skeletonized pieces, unique.
They're quote unquote one
reissues.
shot. So all of those blue PVD Santoses were apparently one shot, quote unquote, 1 year in production, guaranteed not to be produced again. Although they're not very clear about that. Like, I tried to look it up because the AD told me, oh, they're not going to produce these anymore. These are discontinued. I'm like, yeah, you're just trying to sell me. I mean, never trust what the AD tells you. But on the Cartier's website, I couldn't find any of this concept of quote unquote one shot. But sure enough, I don't see blue PVD bezeled Santoses anymore. So they're definitely trying to play the collector's card.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this in a way, right? Maybe 3 nights ago when, I mean, you can find it on their website still.
Yeah.
So
I tell you what Cartier need to do. They need to put a Cartier on the next Bond.
on what?
On the next Bond.
On the next Bond. If especially if it's a woman, that's actually brilliant.
You know how many friggin' tanks they're gonna sell if the next Bond is a woman, and they put a tank on it? Oh my god! It'll be the hottest selling watch of all time.
Oh my god! Imagine the meltdown. I mean, next year, imagine this. Guys, imagine this. If a new Bond is cast and it's a woman, and she's not wearing Omega.
Oh, the Omega fanboys are just gonna.
Sorry to joke about this, but kind of wellness check on Omega fanboys online.
I want a female James Bond just for the opportunity that might happen.
Exactly.
And look, so from a monetary perspective, I think Cartier could pay more money than Omega for that license if it was a woman, because they have more to make from that relationship than Omega, specifically to women. They've got way more to make, so they could afford to outbid Omega in that circumstance. Whether or not Cartier realize it is the real question.
No, I don't know what kind of contract Omega has with Bond to begin with. I know we are just playing around at some level, or simply speculating and engaging in this thought experiment, but it is an interesting one, and it's an exciting one because again, I don't know how. I have to be honest, I've never paid much attention of what kind of other Omega watches or Swatch Group watches, for that matter, appear in Bond movies beyond what is on Bond's wrist. I've never paid attention to that. So I wonder if another brand, especially a brand like Cartier, setting the joke aside about the woman playing the Bond or whatever else, whether another brand that has that sort of unisex appeal and that has that kind of catalog, which can put timepieces on every single, important character on the in the movie might even benefit more from the exposure, because Cartier can certainly do that. I mean, as John D was saying, not only do they have some of the best designs in terms of their back catalog, a lot of the designs are unisex. A cintré,
Yes.
yes, a cintré a lot of times is very large, so it might not sit well on every single woman's wrist, but Américain, which is like a truncated version of that, you can certainly see that as unisex, at least from a design point. These watches are unisex. The Tank, unisex. Santos Dumont and the different iterations of the Santos and the Panthère, again, they're options. Ballon Bleu, different sizes, can be feminine or masculine. So it's a catalog exactly like that.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the hype. Here's the hype train dream team. You do some no-name beautiful woman as the new Bond. She gets the Tank. And then you get Charlize Theron as the bad guy. And she gets like a skeleton Santos or something like that.
That would be interesting.
Just absolute dream team, Cartier, hype.
This is a very interesting question. I love people who are so deep in the lore. Yes, and yes. I am Mizrahi, and I live in Los Angeles. That's correct. I don't know if I consider myself a representative of anyone except myself, but I do always stand up for my people, whether they are related to me, whether they belong to my tribe, or simply they're friends and other people I love. That's another question, but I do stand up for my people for sure. John D has a great line here. If the next Bond is a woman, I'm going to lose my mind. Will personally call Barbara Broccoli and give her a scream bath. And John D is also a big Omega enthusiast as well.
Honestly, I don't think Bond is that sacred. I mean, you'd think I was a Wokey or something like that. It's like, I honestly don't care. Like, as long as they can do something, interesting, that's the sort. Because Mission Impossible is just running away with it in terms of, the series that seems to be doing really well in that sort of style. I think where a woman would have like serious trouble is really keeping up with the stunts and being believable. That's going to, I mean, basically you're going head to head with Tom Cruise these days. You'd be lucky to just say, oh, we want Jackie Chan in his prime. It's like, screw being English. Whatever, just, we need someone to keep up with this crap. We'll take Jackie Chan in his prime, or Jet Li maybe even, but not now. Like, there's no one that can really hold a candle to Tom Cruise at the moment. I mean, even Vin Diesel is getting old. I watched Triple X last night. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise is not aging. I don't know what exactly is being done.
It's all that Scientology, isn't he? Isn't that what he's big into? Like Scientology or some shit?
No comment. Look, I already, I already reside in Los Angeles. Please don't put me into any trouble with our beloved local communities.
Drugs are a hell of a drug, man. I mean, that's all you need to know. Drugs are a hell of a drug.
Speaking of drugs, though, I mean, I always thought, and speaking of drugs and Bond, I guess, I always thought it'd be funny if Rolex just said, "Fuck it, let's give old Ric Flair a call and let's do a limited edition day date." just the Ric Flair special. Just a slap in the face to the Bond fan, I feel like that'd be funny as hell.
Uh,
You
limited
got his own
edition
energy
Nature
drink
Boy
now.
special. The Nature Boy
Yeah.
special.
The Nature Boy special. Fully iced out.
Why?
No, he hasn't been iced
Why
out.
haven't we nicknamed a yellow gold day date with champagne dial and diamond indices? Why is that not already the Nature Boy special?
Because so many people have worn it, in that configuration.
It's true. It's true.
I think Nietzsche is absolutely right, because that watch in and of itself is so recognizable and so iconic that it's perhaps unjust to name it after one person. Even
Wrestler.
I mean, not every single sub is called Bond after all. For example, even though that association is probably as strong as anything, it's like a particular line of subs. Even like the 5513, for example, which is something Roger Moore wore as Bond, is not understood in the same way as 6538 Big Crown is understood as the Bond Submariner, right? So I think when watches have kind of their own recognizability, identity and status, it's hard to name them after something else and have that name stick.
Yeah. Triple X was really good though, I gotta say. I mean, they were really trying to do the Bond thing, because like you could say it's just a new thing, action, stuff like that, but the score was very Bond-like, with an orchestra and stuff like that, when in reality it should have just been electric guitars.
Man,
Doesn't Oppenheimer come out, or no? Isn't that? I think that's like
Soon.
another 2
Soon,
weeks.
soon.
Isn't
Should
it?
be
Yeah.
soon.
I've heard
Should be
it's
soon.
like a horror film. Like it gives off the vibe of a horror film, which I'm excited.
I know to hold my excitement when it comes to Nolan. I'm ready to be confused and assaulted with unintelligible audio.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad we are in that mode again, so I don't mind straying away. What's your top 3 Christopher Nolan movies, Ozzy? Go.
It's gonna be Memento, then Dunkirk, and Interstellar. But I gotta say, I only genuinely like Memento.
So the other 2 are
Top
filler?
3 was a stretch. Yeah, that was a stretch.
Okay.
Oh no! Sorry, how could I miss it? The Prestige. That's an easy number 2. So I love the Prestige.
you.
That's really good
Thank
on rewatched as well. Prestige is excellent.
Thank you. So for me, it's basically Memento, The Prestige, and Batman Begins, in no particular order. I like them all, but I think The Prestige was amazing.
But the Prestige is the only one that actually holds up on rewatch, in my opinion. No, like Memento is like once you watch it like a second time, it's not that interesting. You know what I mean? It's played out effectively. And Batman Begins, it's not really that amazing subject matter ultimately. So yeah, Prestige is amazing. It's amazing. Like it's the only movie that he's done that sort of really tells you a little bit about life. You know what I mean? Like, what will you do to?
Oh my God, it's
your
an
passions?
amazing story.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't watched it, I'm kind of blanking out on the names of characters, but I of course the names of the actors are quite easy to pick up. So you have these 2 competing magicians, and played by Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, and you also have Michael Caine playing the stage engineer who helps them perform tricks. They start as the apprentices of this other magician, if I'm correct, because I watched it a couple of times, but it's been long since I watched it. And then
Yeah, they're assistants to this other magician.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they were necessarily apprentices. It seems.
yeah, so and something terrible happens that sets off this incredible rivalry between them that goes for a long time, and basically one of them tries to exact revenge on the other through something very complex, and there are all sorts of interesting twists and turns along the road, as it befits a Nolan
Yeah.
movie. And it's
And it
the ending,
involves Nikola Tesla.
right, the ending is pretty
Yeah.
lovely plot twist, and there is a whole subplot, so to speak, where one of the magicians goes to Nikola Tesla to ask him for a device that will help him perform his big trick. John D 199, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Submariners without crown guards are the bonds. Jax's Tarantino said he loved Dunkirk. Oh, Jesus. It's okay, man. I really don't like the guy, but what I hate more is having to mention his name. So
Well, Jack is
like
taking a snipe still in this one. He's talking about the 0 worst watches.
No, I know. No, I know. But what I mean is, like, I don't. The thing is, I don't want to give the impression as if I actually care about this guy in any strong way. If he comes my way, I won't say anything that will break terms of service here, but I would deal with it a certain way. As long as he is far away from me, he is safe, and it should stay that way. But Dunkirk was a very good movie too. Ultimately, you are saying you didn't really care about it. I don't know. I need to watch it again. I actually only watched it once, and of all the Nolan movies I actually watched, I missed out on Interstellar, for example. I still haven't watched it.
I missed that one too, Lord. Don't feel bad. I also can't remember Dunkirk either. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
No, I mean Dunkirk, I do remember actually quite clearly, except I don't know what to think of it. I haven't made up my mind, which, like you said, Meech, can be a bad thing as well.
I think Dunkirk was oddly
good,
like,
but...
I remember Dunkirk is sort of oddly like that other movie, 1918, and they're both visual treats, rooted in something that happened. Dunkirk probably more realistic, but ultimately not that interesting. Like, as in, does it say war is bad? Is there any real lesson taken away from it?
It's no Band of Brothers.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. Overall, like, despite the scale and awesomeness and achievements of both of those films, you could miss them. Like, you don't have to watch them.
Yeah, Oz, I think you're right. I mean, look, honestly, I don't really expect, even though I like serious movies, I usually don't expect any serious or complex moral lessons from movies. But there's a chance when it is a little too complex, it is a little too subtle, which is not exactly the same thing. But if it's one of those things, it can end up getting lost in, like you said, in the perhaps visual impressiveness of the movie and the cinematography more specifically. So with Dunkirk, I think the movie had something to say about the horrors of war, especially in terms of the trauma it inflicts psychologically on people who participate in it. but I think perhaps the lesson was a little too subtly delivered and maybe a little bit too complex. So maybe it ended up falling flat on me. But again, I may have missed something. So
But I
I
think
feel like
it's a
it
common
deserves a
theme
rewatch.
for.
That's all.
I think it's a common theme for Nolan, though. He's often sort of having this odd mix-up of things that have weighty human, drama, and things that are just plainly absurd, and he doesn't know the difference, or at least can't present the difference. So, like Interstellar, as like, okay, this is some pretty wild stuff with effectively time travel and interstellar ships and a post-apocalyptic world and stuff like that. Oh, but it's going to tell you something about real love, and love can cross galaxies. It's just really dumb, and he doesn't realize it's really dumb. And then you get to like Inception, and it's like, oh, it's dreams, and like people treat dreams relatively seriously, but then like the execution is so mechanical that it verges on boring. I'd love to see if Inception, that script, was just given to David Lynch instead, and you get the Mulholland Drive version of Inception. It would have been way more fun.
So Davi says Prestige was a great movie, and I also liked the whole concept of Inception as well. John D says Michael Caine is such a legendary actor. Yeah, he is the Bond who never became the Bond. So it's that would be one guy I would have loved to watch as Bond. By the way, he has some interesting things to say and an entire masterclass posted on YouTube about acting, which I would highly recommend if you're remotely interested in acting. You can certainly learn a lot of lessons from it. Bruce G, welcome. Davi says Interstellar is definitely worth watching. Also says Bruce G, Dunkirk in the theater, and that's the one time I watched it, was one of my favorite cinematic experiences. It was good. It was good. And Davi says, oh, I don't know. 1918 was filmed incredibly.
I'd watch 1918 again over Dunkirk.
I never seen it, which is surprising because I'm usually huge into war movies.
It's not. It doesn't rate very highly as a war movie for me. 1918. Like, I'll watch Windtalkers again over 1918 easily.
I gotta watch All Quiet on the Western Front, but it's a Netflix exclusive, and I don't want to pay for a Netflix account.
Interesting.
This is really funny, Jack. I appreciate it. It's an interesting coincidence because I was talking about this movie with a friend earlier today. Have you guys seen Tar? It's a brilliant character study with Kate Blanchett that came out the past year. It went a little bit under the radar.
No, I haven't. I wonder how I would be able to watch it, because in general I don't do streaming anymore unless I can get it on Blu-ray. It's hard for me to commit to such a movie without knowing it's genuinely good. Kate Blanchett's one of my favorites, but she's not an actress that is exclusively in good movies, though. So I'll try and keep an eye out for it.
Let me put it this way. I mean, you have Amazon Prime, right? It's on Prime Video, so
yeah. But I've got another 150 movies that I can watch on Blu-ray that I'd rather experience.
Got the VCR ready to go.
Without giving any of the plot away, I have to say there are two things that I really like about it. One, she puts an incredible performance as Lydia Tarr, who is the protagonist, obviously, and who is this very famous and world-renowned and richly awarded and rewarded composer obviously that she's a woman matters quite a bit for those accomplishments. What I really also like about it is that she actually knows apparently how to play the piano. So those scenes are so well filmed and add to the compelling, well, add to the conviction that she brings to the role. Like that master class she gives in Juilliard, for example, I think would have probably not come out as brilliantly if she didn't actually know how to play Bach on the piano and do a few different renditions. It was just amazing to even watch an actor do that. But most importantly, I think it tackles cancel culture, and from a certain standpoint that is very rarely done, because it's Tar, so it's a woman who finds herself at the center of the accusations, and the way it unfolds and concludes is complex, but not in the way that I was talking about earlier. I mean, it's delivered, I think, in a very how can I put it? Not a clear-cut way, because it's still quite ambivalent, but in a way where it delves deep into the complexity of the situation. Both from a personal standpoint, but also in the way it affects people around her as well. So I think it was a brilliant movie. Davi says the film is fantastic. Without Blanchett, she just propels it. Okay, I respect that. Of course, it didn't win any Oscars because the Academy is rigged, but the director is a true auteur. He also wrote the screenplay.
Oh, who cares about the Oscars? Well, I mean, it's like 12, 15 years now. It's just been a complete joke.
And Jack says the film feels like it was crafted with the precision and insightful genius of Stanley Kubrick. That's high praise for sure.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, man, how are you?
Hey, good morning from the sovereign state of Israel.
Hey, Dis.
Good morning. How are you doing, my friend?
I just woke up. I saw Omega Talk. I'm interested in partaking.
All right. We
Did I
can.
miss it?
No, you didn't. We can always go back. There's always room for.
I'm afraid you missed a disc, but there's always tomorrow disc.
We dissected it. We
Fight
said
them.
ultimately Cartier will own them hard once they slap a Cartier on Miss Bond's wrist in the next James Bond movie. Miss Jamie Bond.
Disc, is
wearing
that
the tank.
booze?
Sorry?
Are you pulling booze at 8 a.m?
That looks like booze to you?
I don't know. It's got a long neck bottle, so
Look, it says. Wait, it says Neviot natural mineral water. Water. Wasser. Yeah, I don't drink booze.
So, tell me what you think. First of all, what do you think about that entire concept of 11 watches to celebrate the 75th? What do you think about the sea blue or summer blue theme of gradient dials that also seem to have a gradation, according to their depth rating? What do you think?
I mean, the color thing is a bit. I mean, the color is beautiful. Let's say it, of course, but I think it's a little bit gimmicky. A little bit too gimmicky for my taste. Why the 11? Is there any significance to the number 11 here?
No, I think it's just like, they went through the entire line of, I think, maybe someone else can tell me, but the entire line of watches they have within the Seamaster family. So Aquaterra 38, Aquaterra 41, the World Timer, 300, 300M Diver, Planet Ocean, Ultra Deep, so on and so forth. So, and at the end, there are 11 pieces.
I see. I see. Well, I think that they should have done something like this. I really like this one, by the way. This is the classic Pro 300M. My favorite of the everyone was the 300, just the 300. Yeah, this one, the 304. Yeah. I wouldn't buy it because I don't like the graduality between the black and the blue on the dial, if you understand what I'm meaning.
Okay.
If you may. I like this one the best too. I just don't actually like the color of blue in this.
Exactly.
Makes me sick.
Exactly.
Makes me sick.
Hey. Hey. Oh, it's beautiful, but I mean, it's a little bit. It reminds me of Zelos or something. I don't know. Reminds me of Zelos.
Yeah. So your favorite is this. Do you have any other favorites? The 300 Heritage or 300? What else do you like?
The one above it, the M, the classic one. Yeah, the wave dial. I think this one is fucking. It's the classic, wave dial. The classic diver, the do it all.
How much are they asking for?
I think it's 5,900 on the rubber band, 6,300 for the one with the bracelet.
Wow.
For the Diver 300M, that's the price.
Wow.
5,900 for the rubber, 6,300 for matching stainless steel bracelet.
Because the S&P is like 4,900, I think. The S&P 300. Like just a normal one of this on a bracelet, it's like 4,900, I think. Or 5,200, somewhere in that range. Like this is like a huge step up.
Let me double check. I mean, they may have already changed the website, of course, but no, it's 56, so 700. Yeah, 700 of an upcharge.
Okay.
That's fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew that they would add something. I was thinking it could be worse, but this was my guess too, that it would be around $6,000, and more or less that's how it came out to be.
Hey, Af, it's 8 a.m. here. Good to see you, man. I'm up. I slept a little. Yeah. Thank you for your concern, my friend.
Yeah, the black one, let me just pull it up. They did have a price hike, but still, that's 56. And then the new one with the summer blue dial on the bracelet is 63.
I mean, I need to see it like in the flesh, not in fucking, advertising videos to really
needs a better bracelet for that price.
Yeah, but I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's nice.
What do you think of the Ploprof? Are you a fan of this?
No.
No?
The Ploprof is a tool watch. It shouldn't be so beautiful. It should be more ugly, It should be black, or orange, or blue, not this fucking special blue.
I get it. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I actually love, I think of all watches, it probably is most pleasing to me here because, again, since they start kind of using darker shades as the depth rating increases. So I feel like this is kind of the Goldilocks spot, the 1600 meters. It turns out, at least to my taste, and the color here is amazing. But I see exactly what you mean. Of course, you want that old school aesthetic, and even on a mesh bracelet or something. Even though this what do they call this again? Why do I forget? The polypren or something. What is the name of this kind of strap?
Silicone? No.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. We got it though. The
Yeah.
perforated rubber kind of strap. It's nice. It's nice. I like it. I think that the Aquaterra 41 and the Seamaster Diver 300M are my favorites out of this.
Oh.
Isofrane. I don't know why I said
Isofrane.
Isofrane.
Isofrane is the classic 60s type.
Yeah.
It's a great strap. I have one on my Orange Monster. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah, you're the man.
Did you say the Ploprof's only rated to 1600 meters?
I think it's 1600. No, sorry, 1600 feet.
Oh wow, it's really not that.
No, wait.
Impressive.
What is it? No, 1200 meters. Sorry, 1200 meters. Which
wow,
yeah.
That's just like a sea dweller, I think. 13,000 feet, something like that. Yeah.
Well, it's a throwback design. I mean, it's big, but not in a way that necessarily should convey an insane kind of depth rating like we have in the Ultra Deep or the Deep Sea Challenge, right?
Well, I mean, it's about the same as the Sea Dweller, basically. 43. I'm thinking about getting the D Blue just for fun. We've been talking about so much submarine talk in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. These colors are something off about them for me. How it transitions
somehow
from black
they made
to blue.
Yeah. No, to me the blue is just a little. I don't know. There's something very sickly about it. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. It reminds me of that movie with Sharon Stone, where she opens her legs. What's the name of that movie?
Basic Instinct.
So there's a music video with UB40, and they see that the color is like this in the music video. Sorry for the connection.
UB40 did a video for Basic Instinct. Wow, can't help falling in love. Is that it?
Can't help
Wow.
falling in love with you.
Wow. A lot of watches. A lot of watches.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of watches, motherfucker.
It must be annoying for ADs to keep up. Like, I mean, there's a lot of multi-brand ADs they'll have Omega, but how could you possibly have enough space to display like the catalog.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Oh, you guys
So
are
d-
silent, man. Well, what have you been
Yeah,
doing?
so
while I was
this
talking?
you've been doing a lot of videos on watches. I don't know if it means you've been buying watches since getting the Submariner.
Submariner? I don't know. What do you mean?
So have you been buying watches since you got the Submariner? As in,
Actually, I have, but it's only like Chinese traders, you know, like the CQ homage and stuff like that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy for the lower end watches. I had my fill. I've got more than a dozen shitters. I'm not really. I really can't add to them. I mean, they're the least worn group of watches that I have, but not out of being a snob. It's just yeah, I'll wear them when appropriate, and I did add that 40th anniversary G-Shock, but
Hey, I'll
like
be right
I'll
back,
never
guys.
buy a PRX. I'll never buy a PRX. I think.
Yeah, that's like you're swearing you want to buy a PRX.
It's just too expensive for something that I might wear one day a year.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh, look at that. That's a very nice
I was
60s
gonna,
diver aesthetic.
yeah, I was gonna show you this. John D 199. These new Seamaster gradient dials are quite nice. Yeah, John D. In this case, I don't know what these guys were talking about. With all due respect, I actually absolutely love the color. Prefer certain ones a little better. I think the Aquaterra 41 is very nice. Ploprof, in terms of the color of the dial, is the best, if you ask me. It looks rather nice on the Seamaster Diver 300 too. Anyway, yeah, I really like this. These are apparently in the prototype stage now. Errant was one of the brands that made pilot's chronographs according to the Type 20 specifications. It was recently revived, I think, by this Dutch guy who has been making quite nice Type 20 genre chronograph pieces. He has been working for a while on this dive watch example that's very much a 60s aesthetic, as this just said. It looks like that Glashütte Spezi, what was it called? Spezi Master or something, the original, that is now revived as the CQ. Yeah, and it has, like in one instance, this sort of tropical take, which some might find a little too contrived. There's a blue one and a black one, and I think when they come out, they will be priced at around 1,600 euros.
Lord, can you paste the link on this private chat? I want to check this out later on.
Of course.
Thank you.
They have a decent movement too. The La Jouperet G100, which is owned, by the way, that movement manufacturer is owned by the Citizen Group. So
that's good.
It speaks to you from that perspective as well. You won't be betraying the Japanese diver genre too much.
Is it 39 millimeters?
I think so. Let me see.
Oh, it says 37.5.
Yeah. 37.5, 10, 45 millimeters in thickness. and overall 1277 with the crystal. So relatively, relatively thin as well, at least for a dive watch. 200 meters of water resistance. Yeah, I would have liked to see maybe a no date version as well, but I guess this is still very cool. I like the
Yeah.
case shape, which is more tonneau than classic round, like a barrel shape.
I have a similar watch. Have you seen my similar Chinese sister?
Yeah, I did.
Ah, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
And I'm trying to see. I think this is Crown Guard. Is it?
No bracelet option, right?
I think they do have a bracelet option. Let me see. Actually, if we go to their webpage, which should have some of these watches there, I think you can add it to the mix somehow.
But what is special about this watch? I mean, the design is it's very good, but it's 60s typical skin diver. It's not CQ for real. Oh, there's a
No, of
bracelet
course.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I think, the bracelet option somehow. It doesn't. I, for whatever reason, I can't switch to it,
Yeah.
but you get what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
There's like a Fixoflex expandable watch band. That's what it's called. So like this. Yo.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I hate those.
Is there such a good thing as a good quality one of these? Is it possible?
It one of the reasons I hate the H. Mosa Streamliner is because their bracelet looks exactly like this.
Right.
Of course, it feels very different. I understand that, but the aesthetic is like the expandable, stretchy bracelet. But it
I
does
find
fit the '60s aesthetic as well. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead though.
Yeah.
I find that any amount of elasticity in the band or bracelet is just undesirable. Like I had some silicon straps that were just it was like a rubber band. It just felt like I was yo-yoing the watch off my wrist. It's just very uncomfortable. I think you need a very light watch for it to work.
Probably, it would work worst with a top-heavy watch for sure.
Does that stretch? No, it's not. It doesn't stretch, right?
It does. It does.
Oh, like a spidle, right? Spidle.
Yeah.
Damn. That's very old man bracelet.
Beyond, I mean, like it's at this point it's 1 foot in the grave. But funny enough, that was also the Timex Cara Barrett edition that was introduced. Did you see that? That may have
Nope,
been already
I didn't
sold
see
out.
that.
But the Hodinky alumna Cara Barrett did a collaboration with Timex. Uh,
It's nice. Very nice.
yeah, speaking of which, I kind of, the reason I mentioned Moza is because I wanted to at least take a look at the new streamliner that came out, which is apparently a boutique edition with the chronograph that uses that Agenois base with, without the registers and everything, the flyback chronograph. And honestly, I mean, I really don't like this watch, but it looks a little more normal without that ugly ass bracelet, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the movement is just impressive, even just to look at. But with one of my friends within the watch community, we have this joke of like sending each other watches, and and we respond in puke emojis when we don't like the watches. And this green is particularly fitting for that, I believe.
Okay, Lord, I gotta jump. Getting pretty tired over here, dad mode.
60,000. Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Nice to talk to you as always, Oz.
Take care, guys.
Goodbye, man.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you, Oz. Please check out Aussie Expats watches, and of course, this as well. I am having some sort of problem with my connection. I know I
can
don't want to
see.
take too much of your time, but can you hold the fort like 5 minutes while I restart this computer?
Yeah, of course. But what can I don't have any
be,
control to do anything. I can just sit here and talk.
Okay, tell me what you would want me to pull up, and we'll go from there.
Put up the one before, the CQ one. The CQ.
Okay.
Okay?
Of course. I'm gonna do that. Check out this channel, guys.
Thank you so much.
By the way,
I
this
just
new
wish,
Streamliner Boutique Edition. Sorry, this new Streamliner Boutique Edition is 60,000 Swiss francs in 5N red gold, if that's matrix smoked green dial. Sorry, this. Go ahead. You just reached 2.5?
Yeah, just put 2.5, and I appreciate any help, support, comments, likes, and feedback, of course.
And Jack, thank you for the super chat. One Canadian. Uh, um,
I think we lost Lord. I think we lost Lord. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just alone here. I don't have much to say. I like the A rain because there are many types of watches with this 60s diver, skin diver aesthetic. Usually we say it's a CQ homage, and usually it's kinda correct because CQ really brought back the popular aesthetic of these watches, from the 60s. But we must keep in mind that this isn't something that CQ, I mean, Glass Shoot came out with, but they had this kind of diver in the 60s, as with many other brands that either don't exist because of the cross crisis or just stopped existing or still existing. We don't know about it. So the design is not unique to Glashütte. So that's something important to say. I mean, hey, welcome back.
Sorry, man. The connection completely crapped out. I couldn't pull out anything at all.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And thank you, Phoenician Cedar. Habring. And thank you for the kind words to Jack. Yeah, this has been working hard. I mean, yeah, he should. I'm glad he thanks everyone for their support, but those numbers don't increase just by sheer luck and out of the pure kindness of people. He puts in the work, so he deserves every kind of success that he gets.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Phoenician Cedar. I appreciate your support. I know you support me very much, and what can I say? Thank you.
What do I do? What do I do?
What I do? What I do? Hey, Lord, I'll be back. Can you hold the fort? I'll be right back.
Of course. Thank you.
Right back. Right back.
So we were talking about some of the new releases. We talked about Omega a little bit. We talked about Habring2's new Chronophilix top second. We talked about the new H. Moser Streamliner Chronograph Boutique Edition. We talked about the Errant Sous-Marine that is coming out soon. We talked about the Timex Cara Barrett. And where are we? What else did we talk about? Oh yeah, I actually want to, I feel like this is a watch that you would like, at least aesthetically. This, I wanted to see what you think about this particular piece. Do you like Habring2, the Austrian brand?
I only heard about them. I never actually saw one of their pieces, but I really like this one. Very military / pilot style thingy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Wow.
It's a very nice chronograph that has a single button mono pusher configuration, so all the functions are operated by this pump pusher located at 2 o'clock, start, stop, reset. A single register, a 30-minute totalizer at 3. Nice Arabic numerals.
Yeah.
Cathedral hands, spear-shaped, centrally deployed chronograph seconds, and it also has a relatively unique configuration. As you can see, this is orange,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
and you see how this is
Oh,
black, right?
how is that possible? That like changes with according to angle?
So here's the thing. It has what is called in English flashing seconds, and
Yeah.
traditionally in French is called foudroyant. So it has this propeller like thing that makes a revolution every 5 seconds under the dial, right around 9
I
o'clock,
see.
with these two arms. So every 2.5 seconds, basically this turns from black to orange, black to orange, black to orange.
Yeah.
So you have some kind of heartbeat or rhythm to the watch, even without the operation of the chronograph. So
Is there a
very,
video of this? Sorry, is there a video of this?
let's see. Maybe we can find a video of it. It's a very new release, so maybe not, but we'll see. Maybe Habring's own website has a video or something of that sort. Their website is not the best, I have to say. I love Habring because, I mean, it's a nice family company, first of all. So that's something I appreciate, run by a couple, Richard Habring and Maria Habring. And Richard Habring was, yes, right here, one of Kurt Klaus's proteges at IWC. And he is credited very often with the module that he devised to make a double chronograph, or rather a split-second chronograph, rattrapante, on the basis of the Valjoux 7750. So I like that, the kind of expertise he brings to this brand, the idea of bringing these sorts of complications, the flashing seconds, the jumping seconds, the
Oh, I
monopusher
see it.
chronograph.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's really, yeah, I love everything they do with this brand, and it's not an absurd price point. You know, $9,000 including the 20% VAT. So it's not absurd, even though it's also not necessarily a budget watch by any stretch of imagination. I really do love it, though. This is, of course, I think slightly, you know, I wish it's a well-produced video, but I wish it was focusing a little more attention on the flashing seconds, but you get the idea.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Fuck, I love that thingy.
And like you said in the beginning, I mean, before getting into that nifty little complication, it's just a great looking watch. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the cathedral hands, even though they are not out of place at all in this particular genre. But it's just stunning.
Yeah, it's fucking stunning, man. Would you get one?
I would love to. I told you I have been, well, you called me out on this, that I've been a bad boy. So since I got this, and I have one more thing out of the way, on the way, I should say, that's wait, I'm sorry. I just love
That's
it,
good.
love it. I have to find a way of stopping that, but it's a leather chair, so it's hard to hard to find a solution to that. But yeah,
Yeah,
Meech,
sounds
I'll
like
make.
yeah.
Hopefully, maybe in the future we'll have a members only stream where I get a lap dance on this or something, and then your fantasy will be complete, Meech. So what I was saying is, since I have one more watch on the way, I think I have fulfilled my quota for the year. I don't think I will be dipping any further into my budget for watches until the end of this year. But stranger things have happened, so we'll see. But I like it. I like it a lot. I want to respond
Can you
to
see
this.
me? Am I stuck?
Huh?
Am I stuck?
No, I can see you. Yeah.
No, but I'm stuck, right?
Oh yeah, you are frozen. What happened?
Yeah, I just updated my graphics diver version, and I'm stuck. Wait, let me try to fix this.
You look good though. You got frozen at a nice scene.
Thank you.
Borrow Archie's chair. I
Here I
don't
am.
even. Okay.
Wait, let me try to bring it. Nope.
Device is not connected, this says, but I want to respond to Jack's question since he super chatted a little earlier. I just graduated high school and won a few cash scholarships. Amazing, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. I want to treat myself to a new Seiko, but I can't decide between the SPB 143-65 diver or the Alpinist green poker table face opinions. Once this comes back, we can get a more holistic view on this. I'm not a huge fan of the Alpinist, so for me, it's a no-brainer. I would go with the SPB 143. For me, it's a no-brainer, and I really love that particular watch. I mean, we were just looking. So here's the question. I don't know if you got a chance to hear it. Jack just graduated from high school. Congratulations. And he wants to treat himself to a new Seiko. And he was asking our opinion between the Alpinist green poker table face or this SPB 143-65 diver.
It's an easy choice for me. Obviously, that's the 4143. It's a home run by Seiko. Beautiful gray sunburst dial. I believe it's the 6R35 movement, which is maybe not as accurate because it's Seiko mid-tier, but a very solid movement, the workhorse. The green Alpinist will get tired fast, I believe, compared to this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I mean, see, here's the thing. We were just looking at those 60s divers styled watches that Errant is reviving, and that barrel shaped case is one of my favorite things as well, because I love round shaped classic watches for sure. I love the cushion shape as well, but I feel like the barrel shape, or what the French call tonneau, splits the difference between the two very well, especially when it's truncated like this. I'm not talking about the Frank Muller style tonneau, but this particular take on it. So I love the case shape. Like this was saying, the gray sunburst style is amazing, especially when you combine it with a nice NATO strap like this, or like a tropic style rubber strap. This watch looks and wears like $1 million.
Can I just say I had one?
Yeah.
Actually, my unboxing of it was one of the first on YouTube that I did. That I did. It's got 22k views right now or more. It's a very hot watch, very just a win by Seiko. Very comfortable bracelet. Really a no-brainer for me. Amazing loom, of course, Seiko.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was hoping that you would get some, you would give me some resistance, but yeah, since
Ah,
I'm not a fan of the Alpinist to begin with. I
no,
was just talking about how I don't like the um, cathedral hands personally.
yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't help in this case. I just, for
I mean,
me,
yeah.
no, no, go ahead.
The Alpinist is not. I don't think it's a good daily, and I think Jack might be looking for a daily. Daily, the 143 fits the bill. The Alpinist, it's more like a little bit more dressy, a little bit more fragile. Even though it's 200 meters water resistant, you can actually go to the sea with it and dive with it. But I mean, nah, I don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, it's too much.
Yeah, for me, you know, I never liked the styling to begin with, so I'm clearly biased against it. Um, I think the cathedral hands to me look very dated, but again, I understand they do belong to a particular genre, and that's the vibe they're trying to recreate. Same thing with the Habring2. I think it would have been so much nicer with, say, a set of syringe hands. I can say something similar here, but then again, that's just personal taste. But overall, I think in terms of just the larger um, question of everyday wearability and
Yeah,
usability of the watch, I think it's yeah, I think this is a great watch. And you can, I know these are kind of sometimes tired phrases, but this is also a strap monster type of situation here. Um, Maybe, I can see it on a leather strap, but anything barring, something too exotic, um, I can, yeah, I can certainly see this on different kinds of rubber straps, different kinds of NATO straps, even like a Stingray strap, anything and everything. In so many ways, it's just as versatile, but a little more vibrant than a black dial, for example.
yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful piece.
Want to say it's a strap master, strap master.
Oh, this is for the alpinist, I guess, Jack. This one. Yeah, I'm uh, I'm not a huge fan. I know the diver is SPB 143 is a little more expensive, and I know at that price point, it might it it would make a difference, but I think the extra few hundreds you're spending there would be well worth it.
Yeah,
I I agree with this. It's the diver is a more everyday wearer kind of watch that you can practically wear anywhere. Whereas the alpinist is, I think, an acquired taste. But even for those who have acquired that taste, I think it's also not necessarily a one watch that you can wear just about anywhere kind of thing. It's a little too niche, at least to me.
hey Lord, I gotta bounce in 10 minutes, just to let you know.
Oh, that's all right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the SPB 249J. That's, does the does the noise of the chair really get that far?
Yeah, it's quite apparent, I must say.
That's nasty.
Yeah, every movement you make, there's a little.
Yeah, that's not good. It's not good.
That's nice. I like that one. It's very 60s, very retro style. Not better than the 143, but
No, no.
still better choice, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The Alpinist as a line kind of leaves me unmoved for the most part. I've never liked it. I was never a big fan. Um, but I can certainly see the appeal between those two watches. I think it's a no-brainer, which was
Yeah,
the first thing that this said in the first place. Um, it's almost a too easy of a choice, and I mean it's like $1,200 or so, right? The price
look,
point.
Jack says something very correctly. The SPB4 is a standalone diver with historical merit too. The Seiko diver also seemed like something I'd cherish if I ended up acquiring high-end watches. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. That's why you should go for it.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
I think you made your decision, Jack.
Yes.
Hopefully, and that's a great way to celebrate your graduation again. Much respect and
Yes.
warm congratulations to you. I'm sure your family is proud of you, and I hope you will wear your new watch in good health and make some great memories, and maybe one day even pass it down to your own children. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's still around $1,200, right? This watch.
Yeah, that's the price, I think.
Yeah, that's a cool point. Cool price point for it. So the other new release that I wanted to talk about is a collaboration between Louis Erard and Masena Lab. It's another monopusher chronograph
I like the
in
crown.
right with
Yeah.
with the pusher integrated into it.
Nice. Best of luck, Jack. He's off to McGill University this fall. Best of luck, my man.
Oh, nice. He's in Canada up there. All right, that's
Uh,
great. I hope you are safe and sheltered from all the fires and not too affected by them.
yeah.
They have two dial options, one in this gold tone and the other rhodium plated, as we can see here. The texture is amazing. And there's a single register on the sector dial with these grained textures at the center, 30-minute totalizer at 12, leaf style hands. All hands are blued and a single pusher operation with the button integrated to the crown. I think these pieces are very attractive, but also rather big.
How big
And
is it?
so here we go. It's the thickness was very noticeable to me, but I think the case itself is 43 millimeters in diameter,
Oh.
stainless steel, and then um, the thickness thickness is 15.7. God damn.
Yeah, it's too
Okay.
much, man.
100
Too much.
pieces in with the gilt dial, 78 in the rhodium plated dial. Um, it's an SW 500 movement. I guess hence the thickness. I mean, aesthetically, the watch is very interesting. I like that Cyclops look, if you know what I mean, single eye.
Yeah, of course.
Um, I think, full frontal view, the watch is very, it's a sexy watch. It's a very appealing watch. It's a very pure design, very distilled, very simplistic. Um, but the dimensions and to a certain extent the price point too give me some hesitation. It's right under $5,000 at 4,950 in US dollars. Both the rhodium plated dial and the gilt dial are still available. Rhodium has 78 examples and the gilt one 100. Yeah, I especially like the rhodium plated one. If it were maybe 2/3 of that size, both from the diameter and the thickness.
Yeah.
Because look at this. I mean, that's a little much.
Yeah, it's too much.
And I know the lugs are designed in a way that are curved and stubby, so it probably wears decently for a 43 millimeter. But look at how that is on the wrist. It's still very big.
Yeah, it's too big. It's too big. I'm sorry. Too big.
You see?
Yeah, it's big. It's huge. I think this guy has a decent wrist too, so decent size wrist too.
Imagine
I don't
how
like
it
it.
looks.
It's
Yeah.
too clean for me. It's too
Yeah.
artsy fartsy for me. Yeah. Your connection is real shit again.
Yeah, it is. Not surprised. Something's going on today, but yeah. And Jack says, I think I have made my decision. Thank you off the McGill this fall. Again, that's a
Good luck.
great college too. So very happy for you.
Okay, good. Stay safe.
Great. This should we have a send off or are you staying a little longer?
Ah, no, I gotta go. I gotta get some things done, and I put
Of
myself
course.
a limit. So sorry.
No, that's what I meant as I'm about to try to switch to another watch, but I don't want to drag you on and on,
No, you can
if you
switch
have
it. I'll
to.
tell you what I think, and then I'll take my leave.
All right, sounds good. Let me see. Oh my god! As always, I just have too many windows and tabs open. I've
Yeah,
lost my
you
way again.
use Opera. Opera has like a very nice island thing that bunches up your similar tabs that it makes easier to browse, and it's a great browser.
Man, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Okay. Jesus, I've really lost it. Can't find it. Oh no. Ah, okay. Okay. Did you see, speaking of colors, did you see the new Oris Divers 65s?
No, I would love to see them. I like this line.
Very pastel stuff.
Oh, they love these colors. They love this stuff. I love it. I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love the pink one and the green one. Blue one as well, actually. Like, yeah, that's very interesting. That's very. It's not groundbreaking, but it's really. You need to have some kind of personality to wear these.
I mean, there's kind of a cotton candy theme. Um, I know it's not a coincidence. I have been talking about this on this live stream. I think people love this sort of unisex genre these days.
Yeah,
You know, these would appeal hugely to a lot of women, you know, especially considering that they are in 38 millimeter. I think
yeah,
they come, in addition to the bracelet, they come with like a purlon strap
yeah.
as
Me no
well.
like it. Yeah. Hey, Lord, listen, I gotta bounce, man. I'm sorry, I have to go.
Of course. No worries, man. No
You okay
worries.
without me?
Of course. I'll have to be, man. It's my channel. I I
Yeah.
have to cope. I have to find some way to go.
Okay, dude. Thanks for having me on so much.
Of course.
And great show. Keep on with it. And I'll see you next time, my man.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay.
Let's thank this together. And as a show of gratitude, please also check out his channel again. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to These Urdis, my friend. This is channel.
Thank you so much for promoting my channel, man.
Of course, you're always welcome. This.
Okay, see you later now.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So now that this is gone, we can talk shit about Oris. I agree with Meech to a certain extent. I wouldn't put it in that way, but I think Oris um, has started at a point where it provided a lot of value, but as it grew popular, and it is one of those brands that benefited heavily from the post pandemic and post pandemic price increases and hypes. They have gone up in price. It's now the the Diver 65 is now what, 2,550. And I believe this is Selita movement, right? So that's getting to a point where it's uh, but again, you know, looked from another perspective, these are interesting pieces, colorful, eye-catching, you know, unisex, so it will have another a lot of appeal. It will have interesting um, kind of excitement around it, I'm sure. I have seen already a few people post about it on social media, wanting, you know, I need to get the pink, I need to get the green, I need to get the blue. So it seems already quite exciting for a lot of people. And ultimately, yeah, it's you know, it's a nice looking watch. It's not exactly niche since it's a very classic style, but certainly these particular cotton candy colors should appeal to the most recent trend that has now been mainstreamed. Just to confirm again, I believe these new Diverse 65 pieces, the cotton candy at least, are still very much the ETA version, because I believe they have a slightly higher grade of this with their caliber 400, which is in-house. But the cotton candy series is not included in that. Meech, if you're gonna jump back, I will wait for you to discuss the new Citizen GMTs because you were very excited about them. And if you have a minute, you can jump on, or I will wait for you and discuss something else. Because I think that's a very interesting watch. That's an exciting entry into that category. Because starting with the new Seiko SKX sports style GMTs, there has been a deluge of GMT watches, of new GMT watches from the all kinds of collar and flyer GMTs, meaning GMT watches that either have only a 24-hour hand or GMT watches, the flyer ones, the traveler ones, which actually allow you to use the hour hand and adjust it in terms of jumping it back and forth as you travel, as you go through the time zones. Sorry, it's been a long day a little bit. I'm a little tired, so I'm losing some of my language as the night goes on. Just give me 1 second, guys. All right, Mitch is here. Hey, man, how are you? Hello?
No, yeah, no, I'm just you were saying here. See, I don't know a whole lot about these myself, other than they are due for a fall release, and they're $1,800 round up. I think they're like 1,000s. Well, I mean, I think the two stainless steel ones are 1,795, and I believe the root beer one is just a little over that. It's, like I said, $1,800 round up. But you also get an integrated bracelet as well,
Yes.
which is hugely popular as of late. And I think the one thing with the root beer is you kind of get this mock. I don't know. Would you really call it a meteor type thing? But you definitely get a unique texture onto that.
Yeah.
I think it looks fantastic, quite frankly.
There's a lot that I like about this watch. First of all, they belong to Citizens Series 8 line of watches, which is their higher grade pieces to begin with. I love the case shape and the integrated bracelet design. I mean, look, they all have some visual interest in the dials, some kind of texture. The black and blue has that kind of texture with a black dial. Then you have the red and blue, which is a blue dial with that kind of texture. I mean, we don't have to beat around the bush here. Let's just call it Batman, Pepsi, and root beer, like you did, Meech. But yes, the gold toned one that we'll call root beer has kind of a textured dial that you maybe likened to meteorite, but it's it's like I don't know, it's like the ice rink, except in a gilt tone, except someone pissed on it.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I also like that it's we're taking it back old school, back to your day, with the root beer coloring here, and it looks great. They really balanced out this watch perfectly to where it gives off a vintage vibe, and the way they did the date wheel, they could have done that date wheel on black, but they didn't. They said, "Fuck it, let's keep it white," and it's one of the rare times you can say, "If it ain't white, it ain't right." So I think this watch is going to just be fantastic. Like I said, I'm a little bummed that it's only 1,300 units for the world. Yeah, I'd really like to get. I'm also not a huge fan of the case thickness. I believe it's 13.9, if I remember correctly. It's a little thicker than a sub.
But here are a few details. The case diameter is 41 millimeters officially. Chances are on the integrated bracelet that can wear large if that's a problem. The thickness is 13.5, which won't necessarily help with what we are talking about there. 1695 is the price point for the Batman and Pepsi versions, and 1795 is the price point for the gold toned root beer. These watches are apparently also anti-magnetic, and they happen to be true GMT watches, also called as Flyer or Traveler, in the sense that they have a jumping hour hand, which you can adjust independently in terms of 1 hour increments back and forth as you travel through different time zones.
Yeah, you also got a C2 case back on that, which you can see the finishing. It's a lot better than any run-of-the-mill Rolex, of course. What I'm more interested in is the deployment, the clasp right there. Is that a butterfly clasp, or is that just a really small standard clasp?
I mean, Citizen's web pages is also horrible. That's why I pulled it up.
I don't even think it's on their website yet, since it's a fall release. Because I remember trying to look for. Oh well, I stand corrected. God, that really is thick, isn't it?
Oh, look at how thick that looks and how it stands on the wrist. That's not a good sign.
To be fair, though, I'm not really concerned because this is at the end of the day an $1,800 watch. I mean, no offense to the mass here, but I've been buying watches that are at minimum $5,000. So for me, this is kind of like a dump in the bucket. Where I wouldn't care how thick it is or how big it is. It's $1,800. But yeah, no, it's still very notable.
So the push button clasp doesn't offer any sort of micro adjustment. The review at A Block to Watch says.
Jesus Christ.
That said, the bracelet is fitted with 2 half links, so finding a good fit shouldn't be impossible. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice, but still, end of the day, it's principle to me. I've always said this before. In today's day and age, in the 21st century, no excuse for no quick adjust.
100 meters of water resistance, anti-reflective coated sapphire crystal, flat, bidirectional 24-hour bezel. The hour hands you can adjust independently in 1-hour increments back and forth. Nice design, nicely designed cases, at least from the full frontal view, both in terms of the case shape and the integrated bracelets, even though I think the size and the dimensions leave something to be desired, whatever the price point. And ultimately, I don't know. I mean, look, there are decent options when it comes to true GMTs at this price point now. So unless you are really captivated by the aesthetics, I would highly recommend the Mido Ocean Star or Mido. Where is it? This is it. This is one I really like when it comes to that particular genre. The Ocean Star decompression world timer.
Oh, I've seen these. I like them. They're funky. I like them on other people, but I don't like them. Like, I couldn't pull it off. Put it that way.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can see that for myself too. That's how I mean. But to provide an option to people, these are again true GMT pieces built on the base of the Powermatic 80, which is really ETA 2824-A2 by another name. But that's a good name because by reducing the beat of the movement, they have bumped up the power reserve up to 80 hours, which is great for a kind of piece that you can rotate in and out of your collection relatively easily without having to reset it so often, so frequently. And the price point is great at 1,310. I think there's also an extra strap, like one mesh bracelet and one rubber strap. I think that's a good deal for this price point. Again, not necessarily a top quality bracelets or anything, but still you're getting something out of it. There's also the Super Sea Wolf GMT in limited edition, which has a world time bezel, just like this. Right, this has a bezel that's both a 60-minute dive timer, but also a CD ring. And similarly, Zodiac has a dive watch that's is a variation on the theme with a true GMT function with an additional hour hand, 24-hour hand, and an hour hand that you can jump back and forth, and a rotational bezel that has 24 cities for 24 different time zones. And I understand these are, both very different aesthetics from what we were looking at, but on the other hand, they're also sporty watches that give you a similar functionality and maybe a little bit of something more as well, with the 24 cities ring that you can rotate along with the true GMT function. And the Zodiac Super C Wolf is $17.95, which is exactly the same price point as the gold toned root beer style version of the Citizen.
Yeah, I agree overall to your point here. I would not buy that Citizen if you're trying to build a roster. This isn't the watch to get. It's not. It's for guys like me and Ozzy who are just bored. We've got a pretty stacked roster already, and we just want to piss around. Yeah, I think the Zodiac, for a long time, I really wanted the Zodiac, and I think they make great stuff for what their price point is. And I think, yeah, Zodiac or Mito would be obviously the better option if you're building a roster or a collection than this.
Yeah, honestly, I do like them all. I just wanted to provide some alternatives. I am a little disappointed now that I've seen some of the photos. It is really too thick, and it's already a big watch. And the integrated bracelets, if it's not very well designed, can add even more to that bulk. So, I'm not averse to actually taking a closer look at it once they start dropping, once they start becoming available in some shape or form. But of course, that's not the situation you want to be in if you want the root beer version, if you want the gold tone version, which is limited to 1,300 pieces worldwide, right?
I would assume so, as far as I understood it. But that's kind of the interesting thing about Citizen is people are going to look at this and say, "Damn, $1,800 for a Citizen." No, I'll take a pass. It's in the same way that I look at, Grand Seiko, quote unquote. It's end of the day, it's $5,000 for a Seiko, just a run of the mill Seiko. So I think a lot of people might not go for this, just off of that principle.
I think that's a fair take, although Series 8 is more prospects than Grand Seiko, to be honest. So it is a higher grade compared to Citizen, but Citizen is more like Seiko 5, with Series 8 being more like Seiko Prospects or Seiko Presage, depending on the genre. Grand Seiko, unfortunately, there's nothing at Grand Seiko that's, 1,800. They're much more expensive than that. So that's
you mean
a
much
bigger,
more overpriced?
that's an even bigger hurdle. That's an even larger hurdle to cross, I think. Yeah, when it comes to me, among these three watches that I showed, and there are of course more examples and options that others should feel free to bring up in the chat. This is my choice, basically. The Ocean Star Decompression World Timer. I like it in both colors. The black is not necessarily muted, so I don't know. You might as well just lean into it and get the blue, which has that sort of um, pastel colors for the decompression scale at the center of the dial. And of course, various details in navy blue, which include the rubber band. But the black one, of course, since it's largely black and in shades of orange, um, does abide by that classic diver watch aesthetic without um, really letting the more freaky, quirky side go. I think this is a solid choice for the price point. Since we are already saying nice things about Swatch Group, let's continue with Tissot. This is an interesting piece that they came out with recently. It pays homage to a watch they designed originally in 1971, the first fiberglass watch, the first watch with a fiberglass case. Today's version, I believe, has a case that is part stainless steel, part marbled forged carbon, as you can see here. And it has also a very colorful, interesting aesthetic with the scales on the dial and a fully graduated 60-minute timing bezel that is also divided for the last 10 minutes as like a countdown. I like the barrel-shaped case on the rubber band. I like the price point, which is right under 1,000. I like the loom. And the movement, of course, is the Powermatic 80 once again, which is a great workhorse movement with an extensive power reserve that can have autonomy that goes beyond 3 days, which is slowly becoming industry standard. Do you like these at all, Mitch? Mitch, did you just leave? I think so. I shouldn't have brought up something like this when Mitch was on the panel. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of, speaking of watches that are just, off the wall and don't really have, much to do with anything else you have in your collection. That could be fun if you are genuinely bored and you want a new watch for no particular reason. In those cases, my advice is just don't. You don't, especially if you have been collecting watches, chances are that you already have one too many watches and you certainly don't need another one. But this is in the genre of watches that are quirky, that are a little bit far out of the left field, off the wall, nice barrel-shaped design, interesting use of materials that pays homage to an early 70s piece that Tissot produced in fiberglass, and interesting colors and luminous material that makes the watch very interesting as a timer in terms of its timing functions, both in the way that the bezel is marked, but also in the way that the seconds track is marked and graduated in various colors and accentuated with lume. This is the Tissot Side Roll S Powermatic 80, all priced right under $1,000, 995 US dollars. That's the MSRP, in yellow, red, and blue, in each case with marbled carbon fiber stainless steel case, and with dials and rotational bezels that provide interesting ways of timing and countdown timing. This is the Tissot side roll. Are you back?
Yeah, I had to step out. We have a massive thunderstorm just rolling in out of nowhere. So,
Well, what do you think about these pieces?
off of first glance, I think they're ugly.
They wouldn't even belong to that category that you were just talking about, you know, something that you would get just to get a new watch, just to shake yourself out of that boredom that you were talking about.
No, this is what you give the mistress. If anything, it's just completely ugly. I gotta be frank and honest with you.
I want you to be frank and honest with me, Meech. Appreciate you that way. Except from that perspective, if you give this to the mistress, I think you might get something thrown at you, possibly the watch back or something heavier and heftier, because this is partly a carbon fiber case, so it might not make a dent, especially on my head, which is very big.
I mean, hey, fair enough, and you know what I say, completely justified. I mean, the more you look at this thing, the more it just looks just atrocious.
I don't know. I kind of like the red one, honestly, and I'm not even kidding. I think it's an interesting design. I love the barrel shape. I also like the way it's loomed.
All right, I'll admit the loom kind of loom is interesting. I'll admit the loom is very interesting.
I think interesting is a good way to put it, because it feels like it's such a novelty that it might die off as quickly as it inspires or grabs interest. Like it's something that you would probably want to play around for about 15 minutes maybe each day for the first week, and you know, then completely forget about for the rest of the time. So, you know, as always, I think, you know, I know you mean it seriously actually when you say, hey, people started looking at all sorts of watches at this point because they're bored, because they don't necessarily have access to what they want, because also money has become just generally more scarce right? And whatever we have, we hesitate more. We think twice or three times before we spend it. So there is, like you said, in the collectors community, a certain interest in these watches that cost less, that can kind of help you play around a little bit, pass time without necessarily investing seriously in it, emotionally or financially.
How much is this obscure looking piece?
Right under a grand, 995 is the retail price.
It's about $500 too much.
I love how you decide on these prices, Meech. I think any watch generally is, you know, should be tenth the price, because that's pretty much what it costs to make it. But that, that being aside, um, look, I mean, it's for even just for the movements. I think in today's market, it's hard to think of a watch like this under 750. The Powermatic 80 movement, I think, provides great value in and of itself, um, under $1,000. But that being said, obviously, if you think the watch is hideous, which you do, the price is much less important. I mean, I would, if the H. Mosa Streamliner, without being a chronograph and without having that beautiful movement, if that were presented in this way, on a rubber strap and priced at 1 grand, I would still not want to buy it because I don't like it. But if it's just a little Tissot, that doesn't really have a pretension about it and has decent Powermatic 80, and some interesting colors and loom, I'm kind of intrigued, but not enough to actually go out and get one myself, I'm sure. But yeah, honestly, I think once I saw this picture, I was done with it. I don't care, what it costs. Even
Yeah,
at
I mean,
500, this looks too unrefined to me. It's just too chunky
right.
for the
For
citizen.
13 millimeters, 13 and a half, there's no reason it should be that thick. I mean, they just took a giant slab of steel and just said, screw it, let's work with it.
Yeah, but yes, otherwise I think it's a cool piece. Again, you know, I think it has a decent movement with, what is the power reserve on this?
I think it's 40.
Yeah,
I think I might be way off on that.
let's see. Around 50 hours. Okay, not too
All
bad.
right, so it's off by 10. um,
No, honestly, it does make a difference. I mean, it's one means, can it make it, for can it make it through the weekend or not? That's the difference that
right.
it makes between 40 and 50. Right? I mean, if you just put it on the nightstand, will you be able to pick it up 2 days later? And will it be still ticking? But yeah, I think the dials are well done in all three models. The outlines of the design, if not necessarily its execution, are, I think, really pretty. You know, from the case shape to the integration of the bracelets to the rotational bezels. I even like the fact that it's not notched too finely. You know, I can see that, and it's okay. You know, it's probably cheaper to make it that way, anyways. Um, but yeah, the thickness and how it looks with that particular case design, it's just, yeah, it's not pleasing to me. GB Val Powermatic 80 is Swatch Group's version of Swatch Group's modified version of the ETA 2824-A2, and largely by reducing the 4 hertz beat rate of the movements to 3 hertz, they have managed to get 80 hours power reserve out of that workhorse self-winding movement. And they use it in the Hamilton khaki field, if I'm not mistaken. They use it, of course, in the Tissot PRX. They use it, as we have seen, in the Tissot side roll. They use it as the base of the GMT watches for Mido, and what were we looking at? Yeah, they use it for Mido. They use it for also some Certina DS divers. Anyway, it's a lot of automatic watches in Swatch Group brands that are right under or around $1,000 have the Powermatic 80 movement, and it's a good movement. Right, I think I will get ready to close. Mitch, did you have something else to talk about, or something else that you needed to bring up?
As far as watches, no, I haven't really. No, like I said, as far as watches, I haven't really paid attention here. I don't think really. I mean, I suppose you could speculate about the Tudor, but I feel like that's just wasted airtime, honestly, because everyone knows it's just gonna be another Black Bay.
Yeah, and also, you know, we will talk about the Tudor when it comes out, anyways, right? You know, we don't have to wait. We don't have to spend much time at this point. Well, thank you everyone for taking part, for your support and presence in the chat, for your questions, for your interventions, for your interjections. Thank you so much for the super chats and super stickers. I love Maldives, OG Baby Girl, Jake Brooks, pardon me, John D a couple of times, and Jack. I appreciate you all. Remember, there are now memberships for the channel, and Ali Reza, when it was introduced, actually gifted 15 of them. I think there are still some that are not claimed, so make sure that you allow gifts on the channel to get some of those. It's a good way to try out the benefits for the first month at no cost to you. This is basically extending and expanding the services that I already provide on Patreon. You are getting some of these videos from the archives where I present 3 or 4 different watches that belong to the same category, the same brand, the same model, the same genre or complication, or maybe even the same historical era. And I basically go through 3 or 4 different deals that I found online and talk about these watches from a historical and horological perspective, uh, trying to teach you about what makes them a value proposition. So even though if those specific deals might not appeal to you, I think there's always something to be gained from that presentation. So you'll get those videos from the archives basically with the entry level membership at $4.99 with 3 new videos every week amounting to 12. And if you get the $24.99, then you get these videos concurrently at the same rate as the Patreon. I do this on Patreon on a daily basis. Any of the big 6 people who are my most ardent supporters there can tell you about that service, but it is pretty good. Ultimately, you can get that same service if that's what you prefer for the same price point on YouTube too now concurrently. But at the entry level, there's a lot of extra content. There's a lot of exclusive content for you as well. So allow gifts on the channel if you want to try it for free and claim one of those free memberships that still float around thanks to Ali's gift. Otherwise, of course, I think $4.99, it's a great deal for the extra content that you would be getting. Please hit the like button on your way out. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I think I will be doing an early show, but I will come back most certainly on Thursday. On Thursday, I am actually having a very, very special guest. Periscope is coming back to the channel. He has just published a very interesting piece delving into the origins of the modern dive watch. And he has published this piece on Periscope. So on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. my time, PDT, he's coming for an interview here to talk about the article and talk about the history of the modern dive watch. This should be very interesting, so please tune in. I'm posting the link now. So feel free to, hey, pencil it in to your calendars and feel free to bookmark it. Feel free to subscribe and turn the notification belt. Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you. Jack says, I just watched a video of Archie exploding on the Seiko Alpinist. Definitely going for the SPP 143. Do you remember that video?
Oh, very well, very much so. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for the kind words. Do you want to respond to the GB Vol question? When is Meech going to RSC for an oyster bracelet? Is that something that you talked about before?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I was thinking about getting a oyster bracelet for the back row, so therefore I could rotate between the two. Back row, Batman. I don't know. I'm still on the fence on it. I don't think I'll do it, actually. I think Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Just in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that that kind of modularity is overrated at a certain level. You know, I don't care much for it either. Um, you know, I've been thinking of putting my Datejusts bracelet with different end links on my GMT, the Jubilee of 16014 for the 16710. And at the end of the day, I'm always too lazy for it. You know, I would either wear it on its oyster bracelet or put it on a leather strap, maybe put it on a NATO, but
The ticker special.
you know, it's all right. All right. Okay. Well, thank you also for Aussie expats and this. Please do subscribe to their channels. I've already posted the links, so check it out. And beyond that, once again, thank you for your presence and support. Please hit the like button before you leave. I see the poll was a little bit divided. People voted for other in the majority without necessarily saying much in the chats, but otherwise the Aquaterra has the lead at 28%, with the Seamaster Diver 300 and Ploprof both also getting 19%. We're signing off now. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, I'll most certainly see you on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. with my guest Jose Perez, when we are going to talk about the first modern dive watch based on a recent piece that he published and based on the research he has done. Take care, everybody. Wear your watches and enjoy them. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you on the other end.